Podcast number 2 is with Cobie Jane Morgan. Hear about her journey as a young touch star growing up in New South Wales to her journey onto the international stage as a triple representative in touch football, Rugby Union Sevens and Rugby Union 15s. Hear of how her family and older brother helped pave the way in making decisions for her success, and how her past experiences have been able to influence the passionate role she now plays in many young girls' lives through the excellent sports program at Marsden State High. The struggles and sacrifice she made and commitment to help better the Australian Sevens program in her time. If you want to hear more, sub yourself in. Kia ora, hello, and welcome to Subbed, a raw but genuine space for our players and athletes, our idols and sportswomen, to give insight into their journeys of becoming the unapologetically talented females that they are. Hear the struggles and adversity and celebrations of diversity as we peel back and sub you in into some of the most powerful and untold experiences of what it is to be a successful female in sport. Third time lucky. Good?
Yep.
Welcome to our second podcast for Subbed, and today we have a very special friend of mine, Cobie Jane Morgan. She's come on board to share things about her sport, life and footy as a professional sportswoman, education, everything in between. So thank you for coming. Actually, thank you for inviting me into your whare today.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so welcome. So I guess first up, if you just want to let us know who you are, what sport you perhaps started out in, and how you ended up to be playing in the sport that you're currently at today.
So I was born and raised on the Central Coast in New South Wales. My parents originally are from Hamilton in New Zealand. My brother was born over in Hamilton, and then they decided to fly over, I think, when he was 1.5. And then I was born in Gosford on the Central Coast. I was, I guess, born into sport, and both my parents, I think my dad was playing softball for New South Wales at the time. My mum was playing a lot of touch football. She still has a lot of those friends from when I was a baby, so I sort of had no choice, but to get involved in sport, and I was just very fortunate. I grew up in a household with my grandparents, my mum's parents. Grandfather was Dutch. My grandmother is from Rotuiti in New Zealand. So she's a Māori lady, and I was just very fortunate enough, I guess, from a young age. They supported me throughout my sport. We had a football oval or soccer oval across the road, and a basketball stadium, and a BMX bike track. So, and the beach 5 minutes down the road. So I was just really fortunate enough. And now, we had my grandparents living downstairs, and we were upstairs in our whare in Terrigal, and my brother was playing soccer, growing up playing soccer, and I played, I think, for 12 or 13 years of my life. So that's where it all began. I was doing surf life saving at the age of 4, picked up my first basketball at the age of 4. So I had my hands and my feet running around on every court or every beach that I could.
Yeah, cool. And was your brother a big influence in the sport you played? Because typically those are like soccer, basketball, footy. A lot of little girls are into all sorts of other things. Not as much nowadays, but did your brother play a big part in what you decided to do?
Yeah, I guess I look back now, and I wanted to be everywhere that he was, so I guess he was over at playing. That was his first sport as well. He was playing football back then, and or soccer, however you want to describe it. But he was playing at the local club at Terrigal, and I guess I just wanted to follow in his footsteps.
Yeah, cool.
He's had a massive influence, I guess. Even with my touch footy career, He was coaching me at a teenage level, so he always had a part, and I guess wherever he was, that's where I wanted to be.
Yeah, cool. So it was a touch rugby, touch footy. That was where you first really highlighted getting into those rep level sort of sport?
Yeah, so I have a memory of when I was in my last year of primary school, and I was playing rep basketball and had just, I guess, had my first few years at playing touch football, and I was making rep teams, and I had to choose. There was a tournament, and it's a highlight still to this day. I had to go and either play for New South Wales in basketball or New South Wales in touch football.
I laugh because you're so
and I literally would have been the shortest out on the court playing basketball, but I just used to love to run on the basketball court, even though I remember making it with one of the tallest girls, one of the girls in my class, and we were both destined to go and play in this little New South Wales or against all the other states in this basketball tournament. But something else drew me towards touch, and I met one of my best mates back then, Tiffany. She was double the size of me, and we went to Darwin together, and I chose to go down the touch football track. So I don't know how, I probably wouldn't have gone any much further in basketball. So I'm lucky that I made the decisions back then, and that was sort of my first taste of playing at a high level was when I was 12.
And having to make the choice between two different codes, so fast forwarding, say, 10 years, and you've got a pretty reputable career as a sevens player, as a 15s player, obviously as a touch player. How did you transition from touch footy into contact sport to go and play professional sevens, and then obviously into the 15s world as well?
Interesting. I mean, I played touch for years, and first cracked it at the age of 15 for Australia. And I was at school levels. So we had an under 15s team, and we went over to went over to New Zealand, and that was our first Trans Tasman. So I got a taste of playing, I guess, for my country at such a young age. And I think that's what really built resilience. Like, I look back now in my career and to understand what it meant to play at the age of 15 for your country. And we had it drilled into us from, girls that were playing opens, what it meant. And, that's like old school days where it really meant something to the girls, to the girls above us. So, and then I think I played for another 5 or 6 years touch football for Aussie, and then it wasn't until girls were cross-coding, girls that were older than me, that I always respected. The Judd twins, one of them, Amanda, she started playing sevens, and the likes of Bo Dela Cruz, they were all my big sisters in touch, and they all started transferring over to sevens, and I had the only thing I knew about rugby was turning up to my brother's game after I'd played soccer or something on a Saturday, and I'd turn up at 3 p.m. I knew his game was always at 3 o'clock on a Saturday afternoon, and I'd go and watch rugby. So I grew up watching it, but I never knew there was anything to do with that girls could play. Okay. So it wasn't until I got pulled into a sevens tournament up in Darwin. Randomly, I came off a Trans Tasman for touch, and the girls rang me and said, we need another player, can you come and play? And it was actually, that tournament was their qualifier to go and play. They had to play that to get selected to go and play in the first ever Women's World Cup for sevens. Okay. So I guess that's just by your first taste. First touch by pure luck.
Yeah, okay. And then obviously the skill set from touch transitioned over massively into sevens. So it was just the contact aspect of it that you had to really fine-tune and introduce. And then was that obviously just a natural flow on to play 15s to complement your sevens? Or because there's been, say, the Shani Williams or the Shannon Parrys who've come from a 15s background and have been introduced to sevens, so you've sort of done it.
The reverse.
The opposite way.
Yeah, so I guess I've done it the complete opposite way, but I went from, there was girls that, I remember my first hit up in Darwin, and I was flying down the wing and then I just got smashed. And I remember having like a blood lip, like my lip was all blown up. I came off the field, I rang Mum straight away. I don't know if I can play this game. And she goes, oh, you'll be all right, darling. Get up, play the next game, da-da-da. And then I remember having thoughts, and it wasn't until I'd moved down to Sydney straight away after that, and I was starting university, and where I was moving to, all my family on the northern beaches down in Sydney, that's where a lot of the girls who I was playing with in Darwin, there was half a team, and they were all from my club that I still will call my first and only club is Warringah Rats, and they were all playing there, and they said, oh, come down and try 15s. I was like, oh, hell no. I don't want to play 15s, no thank you. And then, just come to training. And, you know how it is, just come to training, you'll meet heaps of people. And anyway, I went down there, and I was probably like my second training. I was like, oh, I love this. So it only took, I reckon, about 6 months to 1 year. I was still going between trying to play touch for Australia, trying sevens, and then 15s came along, and all in 1 year I was like, I think in 1 year I was trying to play, I got selected in the first 6 months to play 15s for Australia in 2009, I think. It's the same years that the girls had won the World Cup for sevens, so there was a massive transition where I went from basically playing no contact to full on going over to Samoa, playing my, debuting in my first 15s ever team. Wow. So it was against Samoa. I was like, I've played like 2 club games and 1 nationals, and then now I'm going up against girls that are like triple my size. So it was just, I just got thrown straight in the deep end, and I had to learn pretty quickly.
So I think I just heard you say something before about when you moved down to Sydney to start out at uni. So that's probably a cool little segue. So obviously higher education, went into a tertiary institute. So you were obviously doing well at school throughout, you were at school. I don't know how well I was doing, but we got there. But how was it then, ultimately playing a dual international for touch and sevens, or 15, sorry, and then juggling school, juggling study? Like, how did you prioritise, or did you prioritise and manage getting through high school at those pretty important years to get into uni, and obviously trying to play Australian touch and then introduce into potentially like a sporting career in rugby?
Yeah, I guess. Oh, yes, I'm saying. Yeah, I guess. From in the last year of school, I basically was given the ultimatum by my mum, and like I look back now, and I just have so much gratitude for her, because she basically said, you are playing 10 different sports. You might succeed in 1 or 2 of those, but you need to have a backup plan.
Yeah.
So what will you do next if you can't play your sport basically professionally? Back then,
because you were female, a young woman, or you couldn't make money out of it, or just that's classic mum chat. You need a backup plan. Yeah, look,
I don't know if I look at it and I think maybe it was classic mum chat. Like, I think she was trying to instill some pretty good things in me. Whether or not, because it was no girls' sport back then was professional what it is now. You had your swimming codes, you had your athletics, surf life saving. I guess there was a lot of professionals that I looked up to back when I was a kid, but not in the codes that I chose to go down. You weren't a full-time athlete back then, so maybe that's, her being, pretty intelligent in that sector, probably back then thought you need something to fall back on if you can't succeed. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So that's where I went. Okay, I have to actually pass year 12, my last year. And look, I look now and I think there's so many different pathways that you can go down. You don't have to exactly look down the university lines or anything like that. I was just fortunate enough that she knew that I was passionate about sport, and I had a really good relationship with my PE teachers when I was at school.
Yeah.
So I had those influences. I had my mum pushing me to do well in my last year of school, and I got over the line, and that's what I did. I just went with rode the wave, and I got into university, and
oh, good.
I passed.
So I think it's an interesting contrast, because as well as being qualified and able to be within your teaching realms, when I met you, you were a tradie. So that's on the other end of the spectrum. So can you share with us what you were doing and how that came about as well? Because I think that's quite cool, and also as a female to be in that sort of trade is also quite interesting, because on top of you were also playing professional footy.
Yeah, it's a bit of a mixed bag. It's like a mixed bag of lollies.
She's all good.
It's like a mixed bag of lollies, really. I don't know how I've got through the last 10 years, but I have. So I did my degree. I passed. I then taught for my first year out of university at a behavioural high school down on the Northern Beaches in Manly. Yeah. Whilst doing that, we were part-time with Sevens. So I was taking a lot of time. I guess I was really fortunate enough to be at a school where I was taking a lot of time off to go into camps. So, we were there at the same time. Every 3 weeks to a month, we were going down to the AIS in Canberra. And we would go down there for, 3 or 4 days at a time. And then a week later, we'd be travelling overseas. So I guess I was lucky enough to be in a job that supported me. They understood my commitments as being an athlete. And then I then after that year we went full time in our sevens, and we went into Narrabeen. So I was lucky that where we went full time, I was already living there on the Northern Beaches.
Do you want to explain that?
No, we weren't. We came up to Queensland.
Oh, we did too. That's right.
Before it went professional, we decided that collectively as a group we needed to come up to
just to all the bulk of players be all in one.
Yeah, we wanted to be in one state because we were coming together. So majority of the girls, I guess at the time, were in Queensland, and there was only 3 or 4 of us down in New South Wales, and we looked at it as a group and said, if we really want to succeed, we need to take this to one state. Financially, we weren't stable enough. I don't know. We were supported by Rugby Australia, but not in the financial sector of things. So it wasn't established. Which I look now and I think, I don't know how, because we were the current world champions from 2009, and we're only fast forwarding 2 or 3 years into the track, and we've got girls that are actually wanting to hold that title and be successful with the caliber of players that we had. So we decided to all move with no financial help. We decided to all move Shani was moving from, Shani Williams was down in Canberra at the time. There was a bunch of us from New South Wales, and a lot of the girls were already studying or working up here in Queensland. So we brought it to Ballymore.
How did that impact, like, jobs, careers, families?
Yeah, we all had to leave. So if you were living down in New South Wales or ACT, make it work. Basically, we were like, how are we going to do this? Make it work. So I left my teaching job. Shani was a mechanic at the time. She was, I think, 3 years into her apprenticeship. She still had a year to go. So she was working for Toyota at the time. She came up here. She got a job up here working for Toyota part-time just so she could complete her trade. Others were studying, so people were doing, they were studying whilst we tried to make a plan. And at the time we had Chris Lane, and he was just stoked that we wanted to do that. He knew that we didn't have any financial help from Rugby Australia, but how badly we wanted to succeed. And the culture we had back then was awesome. Like, for girls to physically move there with their partners,
change their lives.
It was huge. Like, we believed that, together as a collective, that we could really succeed, but we had to be in the same place, training together consistently. And we were at Ballymore 3 or 4 days a week, which gave, I look now and I think, how was I surviving? I was fortunate enough to live with mates up here, and for cheap, I was paying $100 a week or something in rent, and I was living away from my family and just doing, part-time jobs here and there, but at the same time we were traveling every month. So I don't know how we all survived, but we got through it, and we were successful in those years. We were at least, we were always in the top 2 or 3 in the world. So on the circuit, yeah.
And I guess if it did pose its problems, how as a team were they addressed, or did you just cope with them? If you were homesick, if you were broke, those sorts of things, is it just something you just had to work out on the run? Yeah,
like we were sort of given, basically, like it was on the run, and we had, it was sort of like, it was like split down the middle. Like, you had girls that had families that were fortunate enough to support them because financially, they
were in a position to do so.
Yeah, and like, that's awesome. But then you had, there was another minority part of the group where financially their parents or their families weren't even stable enough to support themselves.
Yeah.
So, it probably broke the hearts of some families that their daughter was out there, busting her ass day in, day out, trying to somehow feed herself and try and represent, your country at the same time, put a roof over her head. So
do you think that would have broken away or fractured the opportunities for some of those girls who weren't from the well-off?
Yeah, 100%. Like, I think if we were supported enough back then by Rugby Australia to just provide the necessities of getting through a week.
Yeah.
Because we were.
So what does that look like? Food, like, nutrition or accommodation?
Yeah, 100%. Like, some girls were, living with mates on their lounges for free because they were trying so hard to train every day
and crack it
and perform and travel on on the world circuit. And we're talking about the top 20 athletes for Rugby Sevens who laid foundations down.
So if you, and obviously I've got a bit more of an invested opinion in this myself, but if you then fast forward it to 2 years when they do decide to invest back into the program, they uproot everyone again, shift them back down to New South Wales, and again obviously own opinions, but for your, like, do you think that holistic approach, people still being broke, still trying to look after themselves, still not being able to work because of their commitments, do you think that was the next best thing they could have? I mean, you don't have to answer, but do you think, obviously, in some aspects, went away, won a gold medal at the Olympics, like, you can't have a higher peaking, prouder moment than that, but did it really change that, I guess, that idea of some opportunities were fractured for some people because there were still parts for women that weren't supported that could have been? Or is it just the way sport for women has to evolve and go through? Because I believe men would have gone through this in their own time as well.
Oh, 100%. And I look at a story now, and I know that she'll be fine with me telling this, but Elia Green, like, she's amazing. One of the best players in the world to step foot on that sevens field. Like, if she wasn't, I'm sure, if she wasn't playing rugby sevens for Australia right now, she'd be out on that track and field winning gold medals by herself.
Yeah.
But I remember when she first cracked sevens, and she said to me, she said, "Sis, like, I've got to move everything up from Melbourne. Financially, I'm not stable.
Wow.
I'm not stable at the moment." And I just said, my door's always open. I was living with some people who are close to my heart. They're whānau, and they'll always be whānau. And they knew for me to be successful in sevens that I needed somewhere cheap to stay. And so Elia, I think, I don't know, for at least 2 to 3 weeks until she found her feet, was staying at my place, staying on the lounge, staying in my room, brought all her bags in from Melbourne. And to see where she is today, like, she would have to be probably one of the top highest paid athletes in Australia.
So
it's come a massive way. But leading into those 4 years, for the girls to be so successful came a lot of hard work.
Yeah.
And that was with pay.
A lot of teething problems.
So many problems, I guess, and that's, but I see it from a point of view that financially still we weren't stable as through Rugby Australia. We were not stable enough. We started at a point where contracts were really low, and there was no equality between the men's and the women's program. Yet I see that, and I've seen it over the last 6 years, how well our women have done.
Yeah.
And I still don't know today if with contracts and sponsorship and endorsement, if we are still on the same playing fields.
Yeah.
But our women have always succeeded in the sport, and regardless, and that's where I find the inequalities, and it still disappoints me to this day, because our women that are still currently in this team, we're ranked still in the top 3 in the world, and we've held that since 2009. So over the last 11 years, we have not dropped. Performance-wise, we obviously, there has been with winning gold. That was a highlight for our sport in 2016, and from that has come a lot of development. The program's become a lot more stable. But rewinding all those years ago, we were building foundations to where it is now.
And I think it's built almost like the fact that some of those girls are still involved in their program from way back. It's almost built like an amount of resilience for women without having to go through hardship, or I don't know if that's what you call it, but if you didn't overcome all those sorts of barriers in terms of, like, I spoke with Talisha Harden a couple of weeks ago, and her experience of moving down to Sydney for sevens, she was staying on your mum's couch So everyone has their own story to tell, but it's quite cool to be able to see, and whilst there was holes within what they were trying to build, the ultimate is that they're so successful and they've set up a platform, I guess, for youngins to see. But there are always going to be, I guess, those inequality stories that get shared around. But yeah, I just, out of curiosity, do you think the current financial status of Rugby Australia could put a bit of a backward step or a hindrance on where we're going for girls? Or what are your thoughts around now, given our current global pandemic and the effect or the impact it's had on community sport, and obviously our girls at the top level? Do you think that's going to be an issue? Will they have to go backwards, or do you think they've set up a good enough model now to go, we just need to put XYZ back in place?
If I'm to compare it to other sports, I look at rugby league. I'm fortunate enough, and I'm so grateful to work at a school at Marsden State High, and I look at how we develop our programs. It's a rugby league high school, although I'm a rugby union player. I'm just so passionate about where our future goes, whether it be rugby league, AFL, cricket, football, Rugby Sevens, Rugby 15s. But I'm fortunate enough that I get to develop young players into their sport, wherever they choose to be. And I look at the pathways for rugby league, and I think that they are way advanced in comparison to rugby union. For girls, at grassroots level, you've got under 12s all the way through to under 18s in a Saturday comp. So there's no more, I'm just going to go and play in the boys team, and there'll be 2 or 3 of us playing in the boys team. I still see that, I guess, in rugby. That's up here in Brisbane. Sydney, they may have developed a girls comp, and I know down there the girls rugby league comp is really strong, from 12s all the way through to 18s in the Tasha Gale Cup. Up here we have the Karen Murphy Cup, and that's in schools. So we've got in-school footy happening for girls, plus we've got your community local sport. So
plus there's great exposure.
There's exposure.
All those pathways.
Yeah, all those pathways. So they've got, for rugby union, I still feel like, we're far way too behind for we're getting there. I mean, you developed a great program out at Sunnybank, and we saw the reaction there. There was hundreds and hundreds of young girls turning up to your camps, wanting to invest time in rugby union.
If there's no flow on though, hey?
Yeah, there's no flow. I mean, I look at
it's tricky.
I think this year was the first year that we've had junior sevens, or last year was the first year we had a sevens program run up here
that was available
for young girls. So in terms of trying to develop our program, I think there's still a long way to go. Financially, I wouldn't have a clue where we stand as a country for rugby. I compare us, because they are the world champions, the All Blacks, and I compare us to how supportive the men are of their women's program.
Do you think it's similar?
No, definitely not. Like, I'll be honest.
It's what we like.
Yeah, I'll be straight honest. Like, I see how the men in New Zealand support their women, and they're so intelligent. Whoever's behind their business model, man, they are so intelligent. But to see the likes of TJ Perenara and Ari Sevilla jump on their podcast or jump on social media, and they are impacting women because they just purely out of their heart, players like that, they stand up and they want to support the women's game. If you're a young fit, genuinely they want to support it, and in New Zealand, they know for their sport to continue to grow and for them to be world champions, whether they get up there and they hold the trophy or not, everyone knows the All Blacks are the best in the world, and for them to set those foundations where they want to support their wahine and their sport, you can only imagine the impact that it's having on the Black Ferns, on the New Zealand Sevens program, to want to be the best because they're supported by the best.
And it's a much more collective effort.
Yeah.
I think, not just, I know New Zealand's obviously very small, so it's not necessarily easier, but it's, I guess in some aspects, the country's drawn to that one sport and they're so good at it. But collectively as a men and women's national team, they all just seem to rise onto the same level, whereas here it seems to be still a little bit disjointed at times, depending on what code you're looking at. So, just leave that one for our listeners to think.
Yeah, I mean, you just have to look at it in an honest opinion, and we've both been in the environment where
you don't have to be,
and it's not the player's fault or none of that. Like, I'm sure there's a lot of men in the Wallabies program who would love to
100%.
Support the women's game and they understand it, but
I think it's like it's almost like the way the programs are structured and scheduled, and there's no opportunity for them unless they do it off their own bat. And who's gonna, there's full-time athletes, like that's secondary, third, it's down the track. It's not a priority, so I get it. It's just, it's interesting to be able to observe. So, Anyway, rolling on into, you were speaking about Marsden, so high school teacher, Marsden, excellence program. Obviously you're sort of looking at it from a different angle now. Is it cool for you? Is it a cool space for you to be in with all your experience, knowledge, your ups and downs in sport, to now be in a place where you can see young ones coming through? Marsden, if you want to just give a rough explanation on the demographic, because I think that's pretty important, if you're putting people in a box, and then to see how amazing this program is, and to see just with a little bit of investment and good energy what can kind of come out of it. And I don't know, are there students and stuff that it really resonates where you've come from, or why you're so invested in that school in particular and their program?
Yeah, I mean, I was given this awesome opportunity. I'd finished my trade in plumbing, and I had my mate. He was just always banging on the door. Just, when are you coming up here? When are you getting up to Brisbane? I said, just let me finish my trade. I never do things half. So I just said, just wait till I'm finished my trade, and I'll be straight up there. And he just said, I need you in this girls program. Like, I need someone up here with your expertise, and you've got your teaching degree in the background. You'll love it. And so at the end of 2018, I thought, why not? I gave you a phone call and I said, Auntie, I'm coming up.
Round two.
I'm coming up here to live. I could be up here again in Brisbane in 2019.
I didn't actually believe you.
I might have another career change. Thinking, oh, bloody heck, what is she up to now?
Three career changes before you're 30.
And I remember driving in. I remember looking at the front gates, and I went, Auntie, is this Marsden? And she goes, yes, this is Marsden, Auntie. And then we drove down to the bottom oval, and we drove down, and I'm just looking around. I'm thinking, far out, I think I've just got off the plane straight into New Zealand. And I thought, oh, this is going to be awesome. There were Māori kids everywhere. There were all our Samoan, Tongan, PNG. We've got Sudanese kids everywhere. We've got kids, we've got all our Asian kids. We've got kids from everywhere.
Public school.
Public school, yeah, we're a public school, right in the heart of Logan, and for me, I didn't know what demographic I was walking into until I literally opened the car door and had a look around at the 2,000 kids that were currently there in 2019 last year, and my first, my first thing was my mate. He came and grabbed me, Matt Hardigan, and he said, "Come on, we're up on the top oval. We're just we've got our year six boys training up here." And I was thinking, hang on a second, I'm walking into a high school. So I went up there, and there was Broncos coaches up there at the time, coaching the next generation of year sevens to start in 2019. And I was like, this is so cool. Like, they're getting exposure at 11 and 12 years old to Broncos players and coaches, and I just thought that's so amazing. And to see all these little Māoris and poly kids running around with all these superstars, I was like, this school is awesome. Like, the things that you could provide. And the principal, Mr. Peacher, at the time, he was standing there, introduced myself, and he goes, "Yeah, this is what we do here at Marsden." And then
is that how is it that, or who is it that's been able to invest and give those opportunities to a public school and be able to? Is it because of the program, or is it contacts, or is it just people like yourself who are?
Yeah, well, the team that we've got now, I look back then and I definitely know my boss, Andrew Peach, the principal at the school. He would have to be, and I'm just saying it out of being brutally honest, he would have to be one of the best principals I think that I've ever come across. He supports his staff. He's so passionate about all the programs at our school, but I definitely know that rugby league, he holds it's close to his heart. And I guess we're just so lucky that we have someone that just he loves it. He's so passionate. And Matt Hardigan, Mr. Hardigan, who got me up there, he'd worked in Sydney. Okay. At Patrician Brothers down in Blacktown, so he'd worked with the same demographic, and at the time I think his title at our school was the success coach, so he was sort of head of rugby league, but also knew what it took for us to be successful at Marsden. And I guess he wanted someone at his school for the female program, just to dive straight into it and try and get the best out of our program with the girls. And I'm sitting here today, I look at last year, and we weren't the best school. We weren't the best school in terms of winning cups or for our females or our girls playing. But we've come a long way. We're into recruitment. So at the back of last year, we were recruiting. I guess my goal is for us to be the best school in Queensland as it stands for a girls rugby league program, and we've definitely recruited a lot of players who I see now that will go on to play Broncos one day, or in an NRLW, or I can see them playing for the Jillaroos, or I can see some girls even now playing for the Wallaroos, or just going down pathways. I've got girls that are Queensland netballers that are in our rugby league program. I've got a girl who last year made the Australian indoor under 15s netball team.
Right, so
who cross code, and I still believe to this day, there was miss, we just want to focus on league, and they're netballers or they're basketballers or they're talented at so many things, and I still believe that they should play whatever they can, whatever ball or athletics or anything that they still want to do, do it all, because it will pay off in the long run, whatever they choose to do.
Yeah, you'll work out what you're good at.
Yeah, so I don't know. I look at my job and it's a dream job. I mean, we put a lot of hard work into our program, and this year we've created a team of, for our girls rugby league program, there's 5 of us.
Yeah.
We've still got a male on board, but we've got an S&C, Digi, who's played for the Reds for many years, and she has an S&C background, and just her expertise and her knowledge that she can provide our girls in the gym, out on the field doing conditioning, her background behind injuries, and that just provides another avenue for us that we never had growing up.
Yeah, and it's amazing that I think you're all women.
Yeah.
So do you think that impacts a lot on how the girls think? That obviously you've all been there, done that, so you're already just setting standards or showing them what's possible.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. And I guess all the females, so we've got now 4 females involved as coaches, and I'm a coordinator of our program as a female as well, and she's got, her expertise is that she's worked for the NRL for the last 10 or so years and a teaching background. So to have her, she's got a lot of networking skills where she's worked in NRL. She's been the main advocate, I guess, for the grassroots of rugby league. She knows the development programs. She can add perspective from that way, and we're really fortunate. We've got Morgan she was at Redcliffe, who ran a girls, she was the coordinator of a girls fitness program over there. So to have her expertise, where she knows what it takes to do with a lot of hard work. So she and leadership, she's running a leadership program at our school. So to have people from all these different angles come together and provide that for our girls. In Logan we've got some of the best athletes. And they just need to be it's just exposure to great women coaches and men coaches. Like of some of the best coaches I've had are men. So to still have Shane involved in our program, and for him, he is a father figure to many of these girls. A lot of them come from broken homes, or they don't have that strong father figure in their lives. So he's, his well-being, perspective on things is awesome for our girls.
It's so good. And that's what's so needed. I think I was lucky enough to see or work with some of the girls from Marsden through our own program that we were running in Union, and I don't think any of them could have spoken more highly of what it was like to be involved with Miss Morgan's class.
A lot of running.
Not what they were used to. Anyway, we are rolling through to the end of our podcast, so I think it's amazing what you do with the girls and the young people and where you've come from. It's not just an opinion based. You've been there, you've done that, and you can now implement it. I do just 2 last questions that I have been asking, and I probably should have given you a heads up, but sorry.
Whatever.
Anyway, best advice you've ever been given in life, doesn't have to be on field, just best advice off the bat.
Best advice. I guess I would have started at a young age, and it didn't matter how talented I was, but it always, Mum just used to say, just work hard, just keep working hard. If there's someone that you think's better than you, believe that you're better than them and work hard. She just always said work hard, and I look at everything that I've done in the last 15 years now, from the highlight was when I first made my first Australian team. Was no matter what, I always went back to that same value, was just keep working hard, work my bum off. And I just remember waking up, I was in my years, what was I, 13 or 14 years old, and I was waking up at early as in the morning and going for these massive runs just to train. Like I'd run hills and just hungry, and I didn't even know what goals I had in front of me, but I was chasing something, chasing my breath back then probably, but I wanted to be the best, and I knew it always had to come with hard work. So with whatever goals I've had, I guess in the long run, and I look up at my mum and my aunties and even my nan, like they were all hardworking women.
Yeah. So it's all stemmed from
Yeah, it just, like, no matter how talented you were, you always, put your head down, bum up. And even my nan used to say that to me, head down, bum up, bub, and you will go places. So that's probably the best advice that I ever received as a kid. And I try and instill that now with my girls. Like, it doesn't matter how talented you are, hard work will always pay off.
Yeah, that's so true.
Yeah.
Wise words from Patty. And then our last one is, what is your hope for the future of young girls in sport?
Wow, that is a big question.
It's deep.
Super deep. I guess, like, right now we're at the point where females are getting paid for our sport. So in rugby sevens, there's full-time contracts. In rugby league, there's girls getting paid for NRLW for representing their country. In AFL, they're getting paid. So we're at a point in time now where I guess we've gotten through the hard years of getting paid biscuits to now there's girls that are making a living out of it. I honestly hope that one day in Australia, we are sitting on the same playing fields financially with men's sport. There's heaps more exposure to us. We're the primetime game. It's not just, you'll play at 1 o'clock before the boys, and then 3 o'clock the men's game will come on. I honestly believe we'll get there. It's going to take, I reckon we're halfway there at the moment, and there's still pathways that we need to set. Yeah, but for that to happen, I think, like we were touching on before, it needs to be as a collective, as a whole. It can't be two separated programs, the men's and the women's. No matter what sport that we jump into, but for men to realise that for their sport to keep growing, women, you need your wahine. Behind every good man, there's a lady, So I believe that that's the same with sport, and that's how we'll grow together as a country. But we've got a lot of stepping stones. But yeah, I hope, I look now at the girls that I've got, and I hope in 5 or 6 years' time, when the girls that I've got in year 7 leave our shores at Marsden, that, the 5 or 6 that turn into full-time athletes out of the 200 in their year or whatever, I hope that I can see them, they'll be, full-time athletes, not having to worry about what part-time job or whose lounge they're sleeping on tonight, or who's feeding them tonight. Like, I hope that they're in a stable position where they can just go hard at their sport or at their jobs or whatever opportunities that they get, but yeah, in the realm of sport, that's what I hope for.
Yeah, that's amazing. And I think you are probably the best person to help share that with them and get them on the right track. So thank you for sharing that. Thank you so much for coming on to our podcast. A few little laughs in there, but we'll see how the editing goes. But yeah, thank you very much for being a part of it, for being a part of those girls' journeys and in the community, and also for being a part of mine and our very good friends. So
Sure.
done.